Part 1, The Silent Centuries. The stars belonged to the Dominion. For 12,000 years they had conquered every world they found. Their ships were massive, their weapons deadly, and their armies unstoppable. Hundreds of alien species bowed before them. Some joined willingly. Others fought and lost. None escaped. The Valthar led the Dominion. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They believed strength meant everything. To them, weak species deserved slavery or death. The galaxy feared them, and they liked it that way. 400 years ago, the Dominion found Earth, a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Their scouts reported a primitive species called humans. They had only just learned to travel between planets. They had no shields, no energy weapons, no chance. The Dominion prepared invasion fleets. They always did this. It was simple. Arrive, demand surrender, and crush anyone who refused. They had done it 1,000 times before. But something strange happened. Before the invasion fleet could launch, Earth disappeared. Not destroyed. Not abandoned. Simply gone. Their entire solar system vanished from all sensors. No light, no signals, no trace. As if someone had pulled a curtain across the stars. The Dominion searched for answers. Their scientists studied the empty space. They found nothing. Some said the humans destroyed themselves with their primitive weapons. Others claimed they escaped to another dimension. A few whispered that maybe the humans were hiding. That maybe they were afraid. Commander Thalen of the Valthar military thought the last option was most likely. He had studied the human broadcasts before they vanished. They were violent creatures who fought each other constantly. They were also clever, too clever to face the Dominion unprepared. They are hiding like frightened children, Thalen told his officers. We should find them and teach them their place. The Dominion Council debated for decades. Finally, they agreed. Send a battle group to investigate. If humans survived, conquer them. If they died, claim their system. Either way, the Dominion would win. Thalen received command of 50 warships. Each ship carried enough firepower to burn a continent. 50 ships could conquer 100 worlds. For one isolated system, it was massive overkill. But the Dominion never took chances. The fleet jumped through quantum space, crossing light years in seconds. They emerged at the coordinates where Earth's sun should be. Thalen expected ruins. Instead, his sensors screamed warnings. The solar system was still there. And it was not empty. Thalen stared at his displays in disbelief. Massive structures orbited every planet. Stations the size of moons floated in formation. Shipyards stretched for thousands of kilometers. Energy readings that should not be possible blazed across his screens. What happened here? His second officer whispered. Thalen felt a cold touch of doubt. 4 centuries was a long time. Humans had been clever before they vanished. What had they built in 400 years of isolation? He pushed the doubt away. The Dominion had conquered for 12,000 years. These humans had hidden for only 4 centuries. Technology took time to develop. They might have built impressive toys, but the Dominion had perfected warfare across millennia. Forward, Thalen ordered. Prepare weapons. High above Earth, in Orbital Defense Platform 7, Captain Minho watched the alien fleet approach. He was 30 years old, born after Earth closed its borders. His grandmother had helped build the Veil, the quantum barrier that hid humanity from the universe. She told him stories about the first contact, about the alien ships that came with weapons ready, about the choice humanity made: hide, prepare, survive. Minho had trained his entire life for this moment. Every human in the Defense Corps had. They knew the aliens would come eventually. Arrogance always did. Lieutenant Jiwoo, confirm contact, Minho said calmly. Jiwoo worked her console, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. 50 warships, Captain. Valthar design. They match the database from first contact. They are charging weapons. Sound general alert. Wake the Admiral. Send the message. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, alarms rang. People moved to shelters, not in panic, but in practice. They had drilled for this day countless times. In underground cities, in lunar colonies, in stations orbiting Mars, humanity prepared. In the deep command center beneath Sol, Admiral Hyon opened her eyes. She had been meditating as she did every morning. She was 60 years old, gray-haired and calm. She had spent 40 years in the Defense Corps. She knew this day would come. Admiral, we have contact, her aide reported. 50 Valthar warships. Captain Minho is broadcasting the warning. Hyon stood and walked to the command center. Hundreds of officers worked at stations coordinating Earth's defenses. Every face was serious but not afraid. They were ready. On every frequency and every language the Dominion used, Minho's message played. You have entered sovereign human territory. Leave now. This is your only warning. On his flagship, Thalen heard the message and laughed. He had heard 1,000 species beg for mercy. This was different. This was not begging. This was a command. Primitive arrogance, he said. They think they can order the Dominion? Fire on the nearest platform. Show them what happens to those who forget their place. His weapons officer hesitated. Commander, should we not assess their capabilities first? I have 50 warships. Thalen roared. Fire! Minho watched the enemy ship charge its main weapon. Around him, his crew worked silently. Ensign Dahyun monitored tactical displays. Specialist Yuna prepared defensive systems. Lieutenant Jiwoo tracked the enemy fleet positions. They were young, but they were not afraid. They had trained for this. Their parents had trained for this. Their grandparents had built the weapons for this. They are firing, Captain, Dahyun reported. Return fire. Protocol grandmother's gift, the enemy weapon fired. A beam of superheated plasma that could melt mountains. It crossed the distance in seconds. It struck Platform 7's shields and disappeared like rain on stone. Then Platform 7 fired back. But not with weapons. With something the Dominion had never seen. A pulse of quantum-locked energy that reached across space in an instant. It touched Thalen's flagship and changed everything. Every system froze. Weapons went dead. Engines stopped. Life support continued, but nothing else worked. The crew could not move. They could not speak. They could only watch as their ship became a drifting tomb. Thalen's eyes could still see. His mind still worked. But his body was locked in place. He watched his fleet scatter in panic. He watched one brave captain fire missiles in revenge. He watched Platform 7 erase that ship completely, leaving not even atoms behind. 48 ships fled through quantum jumps. Only Thalen's frozen flagship remained, a warning and a lesson. Minho stood and walked to the viewing port. Earth hung below, blue and green and beautiful. Humanity's home. Worth hiding for. Worth fighting for. Contact Admiral Hyan, he said quietly. Tell her first contact was successful. The Dominion knows we exist now, and they know we are not prey. In the command center, Admiral Hyan received the report. She showed no emotion. She had known this would happen. The Dominion could not leave humanity alone. Their arrogance would not allow it. Prepare for Stage 2, she ordered. They will come back. Next time they will bring more ships. Around her, officers began preparations. 400 years of planning would now be tested. Humanity had closed its borders to gain time. Time to think, time to build, time to become something the Dominion had never faced before. A prey species that was not prey at all. Part 2. The Empire's Mistake. The Dominion capital world stretched across 3 continents. Billions lived there, representing hundreds of conquered species. At its center stood the Council Chamber, a massive pyramid where the Empire's rulers decided the fate of galaxies. Today, they discussed failure. The first failure in 300 years. Commander Thalen's frozen flagship had been towed back through quantum space. His crew was eventually freed from the quantum lock, but the shame remained. 50 ships sent to investigate primitives. 1 ship captured, 1 destroyed, 48 fled home. War Master Kuven stood before the council. He was Valthar, like Thalen, but older and covered in scars from 100 battles. His forearms gestured angrily as he spoke. They humiliated us. 1 platform defeated 50 warships. This cannot stand. We must respond with overwhelming force. Chief Strategist Ralseth, a thin creature with green scales, raised 1 clawed hand. Perhaps we should negotiate. They disabled ships without destroying them. They showed mercy. That suggests they want peace, not war. Kuven's eyes blazed. Mercy, that was not mercy. That was a demonstration. They wanted us to see their power and be afraid. Well, I am not afraid. I am angry. Give me 10,000 ships. I will crush this humanity and make them regret their arrogance. The council debated for hours. Some agreed with Ralseth, negotiate, learn about these humans, discover how they advanced so quickly. Others supported Kuven. The Dominion ruled through strength. Show weakness once and 1,000 rebellions would follow. Finally, the High Counselor spoke. He was ancient, his species unknown, his face hidden behind a mask. The Dominion has never retreated from a challenge. War Master Kuven, you will have your 10,000 ships. But if you fail, the consequences will fall on you alone. Kuven bowed. I will not fail. Far across space in the Sol Command Center, Admiral Hyan addressed the United Earth Council. Representatives from every nation appeared on holographic screens. The Council had governed humanity since the borders closed. National differences still existed, but survival came first. Representative Sujin from the Korean sector spoke first. She was young, only 40, with sharp eyes. Admiral, can we win against 10,000 ships? Hyun did not hesitate. Yes. We spent 400 years preparing for exactly this scenario. Our technology is generations beyond theirs, but we must be clear. This will not be one battle. The Dominion spans thousands of worlds. They can replace losses. We cannot. We must win so completely that they never come back. Defense Minister Taeyang stood. He was older, nearly 70, with white hair and steady hands. Then we show them why Earth closed its borders. We show them what humans become when given time to think, to build, to prepare for war. The Council voted. Unanimous. Full mobilization. Across the solar system, humanity responded. On Earth, underground factories hummed to life. Machines that had waited centuries began producing weapons. On the Moon, shipyards that had built only a few vessels per year now operated at full capacity. Mars forges, powered by the planet's core, pumped out ammunition and armor. In the asteroid belt, mining operations worked around the clock, feeding raw materials to the hungry machines. Captain Minho stood in Platform 7's rebuilt command center. The station had been moved deeper into the system, closer to Jupiter. From here, they could coordinate the outer defense grid. Lieutenant Jiwoo brought him reports. Admiral Hyan estimates 6 weeks until the Dominion fleet arrives. All platforms are operational. The minefields are deployed. The stealth squadrons are in position. Minho studied the tactical display. It showed the entire solar system. Every defense, every ship, every weapon. Humanity had 400 years to prepare this moment. Now they would see if it was enough. What do you think they will do? Jiwoo asked. They will come in force, Minho said. They will expect us to be impressed by their numbers. They will expect us to surrender. And when we don't, then we teach them the lesson they should have learned 400 years ago. Some doors stay closed for a reason. On the Dominion flagship Eternal Dominion, War Master Kuven reviewed his fleet. 10,000 warships, the largest invasion force assembled in a century. Each ship was a weapon of terrible power. Together they could burn entire star systems. Commander Thalen stood beside him. After his failure, he had been demoted but not executed. Kuven wanted him present as a reminder. Fail, and there are consequences. Tell me about their defenses, Kuven demanded. Thalen had given this report a dozen times, but Kuven never listened. War Master, they possess technology I have never encountered. Their quantum weapons can disable ships instantly. Their shields absorbed our most powerful weapons without effort. I recommend caution. Kuven's laugh was harsh. Caution? You lost 50 ships and learned to fear. I bring 10,000. I do not fear primitives with clever toys. You will watch as I succeed where you failed. The fleet prepared to jump. Engineers checked quantum drives. Weapons officers armed missiles and charged energy cannons. Marines prepared boarding equipment, expecting to conquer whatever remained after the bombardment. They did not know that Captain Minho was watching their preparations. Human listening posts hidden in quantum space tracked every Dominion movement. Humanity knew exactly when the fleet would arrive, exactly where they would emerge, and exactly what they planned to do. 6 days until they arrive, Ensign Daehyun reported. They are following predictable jump patterns. They will emerge at the system's edge, standard invasion formation. Specialist Yuna smiled slightly. Standard formation? They really think we are primitives. Minho did not smile. 10,000 ships can kill us if we make mistakes. Stay focused. Review the protocols. Check every system twice. When they arrive, we get one chance to do this right. In the command center, Admiral Hyan met with her senior officers. They reviewed the battle plan called Grid Omega. It was elegant in its simplicity and devastating in its execution. They will enter here, Hyun pointed to the system's edge. They will expect us to meet them with our fleet. Instead, we let them come deeper into the system, into the trap. And if they detect the mines? Asked Fleet Commander Borum, who led the stealth squadrons. The mines are quantum phased, Hyun replied. They exist slightly outside normal space. The Dominion has never encountered this technology. They cannot detect what they do not know exists. The officers dispersed to their commands. Ships moved to final positions. Platforms charged weapons. Soldiers checked equipment. Humanity had 6 days to prepare for the largest battle in its history. On Earth, people watched the preparations. They were not afraid. 400 years of stories had been passed down. Stories about why the borders closed. Stories about the choice their ancestors made. Hide now or die forever. They chose to hide. They chose to prepare. Now the moment of truth approached. The Dominion fleet jumped through quantum space. 10,000 ships moving as one, confident in their power. War Master Kuven stood on his bridge, surrounded by officers who had never lost a battle. "Emerge at the target coordinates," he commanded. "All ships' weapons ready. When we arrive, we fire until nothing remains but debris and surrender." Commander Thalen wanted to warn him one more time. He wanted to say that humanity was not like other species, but he stayed silent. Kuven would not listen. The Dominion would learn the hard way. The fleet emerged from quantum space. Sensors swept the system. The weapons officer frowned at his display. "War Master, I am reading nothing. The system appears empty. No ships, no stations, nothing." Kuven's confidence wavered for just a moment. "Impossible. Full sensor sweep. Find them." Deep inside Jupiter's orbit, Captain Minho watched the enemy fleet settle into position. They were exactly where Admiral Hyun predicted they would be. Exactly where Grid Omega was strongest. "They are in position, Admiral," he reported. On her command screen, Admiral Hyun looked at the 10,000 ships. She felt no joy at what was about to happen. Only grim necessity. The Dominion came to conquer. They would learn that some prey bites back. "All platforms," she said quietly. "Execute Grid Omega. Show them why Earth closed its borders. Show them why we stayed hidden. Show them what humanity becomes when we have time to prepare for war." Minho turned to his crew. "Grid Omega. Execute." Across the solar system, invisible minds activated. The trap was sprung. Part 3. The Battle of Sol. The space around the Dominion fleet erupted. What appeared to be empty void was actually filled with thousands of quantum disruption nodes. Human engineers had spent decades perfecting them. Each node existed slightly outside normal space, invisible to conventional sensors, waiting for activation. When Grid Omega activated, the nodes became real and deadly. War Master Kuven barely had time to shout a warning before his sensors went crazy. His weapons officer screamed as 3,000 ships simply vanished from the tactical display. Not destroyed in explosions, not damaged and drifting, just gone. Erased from existence as their quantum cores collapsed into nothing. "What is happening?" Kuven roared. "Return fire. Defensive formation." But there was nothing to shoot at. The mines did their work and went dormant again, invisible and waiting. In 30 seconds, 3,000 warships and their crews ceased to exist. The largest fleet in Dominion history had just lost a third of its strength to an enemy they could not see. Captain Minho watched the destruction on his displays. Each blinking light that vanished represented hundreds of lives. He felt no joy. War was terrible, even when necessary, but the Dominion chose this. They were warned. They came anyway. "Second wave preparing," Ensign Daehyun reported. "Enemy fleet is attempting to retreat." "Not yet," Minho said. Lieutenant Jiwoo, signal the stealth squadrons. "Show them they cannot run." High above Mars, Lieutenant Borum received the signal. She commanded defense cruiser Incheon and 20 other ships. They had been waiting in quantum stealth, completely invisible, engines cold, systems silent. Human stealth technology made ships exist in multiple dimensions at once. The Dominion had never developed anything like it. "All ships," Borum said calmly. "Drop stealth. Block their retreat. Fire when ready." 21 human warships materialized directly in the Dominion fleet's retreat path. They were smaller than the Dominion battleships, but sleeker and faster. Their weapons were not plasma cannons or missile pods. They were space-time manipulators, devices that bent reality itself. Borum's tactical officer, Ensign Minjae, locked targets. Firing, the human weapons reached out across space. They did not burn or explode. They folded space around enemy ships, compressing them into quantum pockets no larger than a marble. 2,000 Dominion warships crumpled like paper in a fist. Some Dominion captains tried to fight back. Their weapons fired, missiles launched, energy beams blazed. But the human shields were perfect. Every attack splashed harmlessly against barriers that bent space itself. In minutes, another 2,000 ships were gone, Kuven's invasion force was cut in half. 5,000 ships destroyed. 5,000 terrified crews trying to understand how they were losing so badly. On his flagship, Kuven stared at the disaster. Sweat ran down his gray skin. His forearms shook with rage and fear. The Dominion had not lost a major battle in 300 years. Now in less than an hour, half his fleet was destroyed. All ships, he commanded. Attack formation. We charge their defenses. We overwhelm them with numbers. Forward. Commander Thalen stepped forward. Warmaster, no. We cannot win this. We must retreat while we still can. Kuven turned on him. Coward, you failed once. You will not make me fail too. All ships, full speed ahead. Find their stations. Destroy everything. 3,000 Dominion ships accelerated toward the inner system. They spread out, searching for targets, weapons ready. They had been humiliated, but they still had numbers. Surely they could overwhelm the defenders if they pushed hard enough. Admiral Hyan watched the enemy fleet advance. In the Seoul Command Center, officers reported status. Every platform was ready. Every defense grid was charged. The enemy was walking into a meat grinder, but they did not know it yet. They are brave, she said quietly. Foolish, but brave, very well. If they want to see our inner defenses, let us show them. She opened communications to all platforms. All commanders, weapons free. Destroy the invaders. Platform 7 came alive with light. Captain Minho stood in the center of organized chaos. Specialist Yuna coordinated point defense. Ensign Daehyun managed targeting solutions. Lieutenant Jiwoo tracked enemy movements. Around them, 100 crew members worked in perfect synchronization. Targets locked, Daehyun reported. 100 enemy ships in range. Fire, Minho said. Platform 7's main weapon was called Grandmother's Fist. It gathered quantum energy and released it in a focused beam. The beam did not travel at light speed. It traveled instantly, appearing at the target the moment it was fired. 100 Dominion ships died in a single second. Their shields failed, their hulls melted, their reactors exploded. Platform 7 fired again. Another 100 died. But Platform 7 was only one of 50 defense platforms. Each platform had been built over decades, incorporating every advancement human scientists could create. Each platform carried weapons that the Dominion could not comprehend. Platform 12 used gravity lances that crushed ships like empty cans. Platform 23 fired quantum torpedoes that phased through shields and exploded inside enemy hulls. Platform 41 projected energy fields that simply made ships stop existing in this dimension. The Dominion fleet pushed forward, dying the entire way. For every meter they advanced, a dozen ships burned. Their weapons fire reached the platforms and accomplished nothing. Human shields were too strong. Human armor was too thick. Human technology was too advanced. Kuven watched his fleet die. 200 ships. 500 ships. 1,000 ships. The tactical display was a sea of red warning icons. His officers shouted reports, but he barely heard them. This was not a battle. This was a massacre. War Master, his sensor officer called out. I am detecting something strange. Large objects moving toward us from Jupiter orbit. What objects? Kuven demanded. I do not know. They are large, very large. The objects came into view. They were asteroids, but not natural ones. Humans had hollowed them out, filled them with engines and weapons, and turned them into mobile fortresses. Each one was 10 kilometers across, armored with meter-thick plates bristling with weapon ports. There were 5 of them. They moved slowly but unstoppably like ancient gods of war. When they fired, space itself screamed. Beams of pure energy, wider than battleships, swept through the Dominion fleet. Hundreds of ships vaporized in each shot. Kuven's flagship shook from a near miss. Alarms screamed. Hull breaches on 3 decks. Engine power at 60%. Shields failing. Retreat, he whispered. Then louder. All ships, retreat. Full quantum jump. Commander Thalen was already at the navigation console. Calculating jump coordinates. 30 seconds. Those 30 seconds cost another 500 ships. Human weapons did not stop firing. Human defenses did not falter. The Dominion fleet fled in complete disorder, each captain trying to save their own ship. Admiral Hyan's face appeared on every Dominion screen. Her expression was calm, almost sad. She spoke in the Dominion's primary language, her words clear and firm. War Master Kuven, you came to conquer. You found only death. I offer you one chance. Surrender now, or I will destroy every remaining ship. Your choice. Kuven's pride as a Valthar warrior would not let him accept. To surrender was worse than death. The Dominion had ruled for 12,000 years. They did not bow to primitives, all ships, he began. Final assault on... Commander Thalen moved faster than thought. His fist struck Kuvan across the jaw, sending the War Master crashing into his command chair. The bridge went silent. Striking a superior officer meant death, but Thalen did not care. Enough, Thalen said. He turned to the communications array. Admiral Hyan of Earth, I am Commander Thalen. I speak for the Dominion fleet. We surrender. Kuvan tried to rise, blood running from his mouth. I dare to save what remains of our people, Thalen said coldly. You led 10,000 ships into this trap because your pride would not let you see the truth. These humans are not primitives. They are not weak. They are what we would become if we spent centuries preparing for one battle. They won. We lost. And I will not let more of our people die for your ego. He looked back at Admiral Hyan's image. What are your terms? In the Sol Command Center, Admiral Hyan allowed herself a small breath of relief. The battle could have continued. Humanity would have won. But every death, even enemy deaths, was a tragedy. Better to end this now. Your surviving ships will shut down weapons and engines, she said. You will remain in place until we secure them. Your wounded will receive medical care. Your dead will be returned to you with honor. And when this is done, you will take a message back to your Dominion. What message? Thalen asked. That Earth's borders remain closed. That we want to be left alone. And that anyone who crosses our borders again will face the same fate. Captain Minho watched as the Dominion ships powered down. 5,000 ships had surrendered. 5,000 ships had been destroyed. Over 2 million enemy crew members dead in a single battle. The largest military victory in human history. But as he looked at the debris field, the shattered hulls, the frozen bodies drifting in the void, he felt no triumph. Only a deep weariness. War is terrible, he said quietly to Jiwoo. Even when necessary. Even when you win. Yes, sir, Jiwoo replied. But they made their choice. We gave them warnings. We gave them chances to leave. They chose this. Part 4. The Council's Choice. The Dominion Council met in emergency session. Around the pyramid chamber, representatives from 100 conquered species watched in silence. News of the defeat had spread across the Empire. 10,000 ships sent to crush primitives, 5,000 destroyed, 5,000 captured, the largest military disaster in 3 centuries. War Master Kuvan was absent. He had been arrested by his own officers after Commander Thalen struck him. Striking a superior was a death penalty offense, but refusing surrender when defeat was certain was also a crime. The Council would decide both their fates. Chief Strategist Ralseth stood to speak. His green scales caught the light as he addressed the assembly. We face a crisis not seen in generations. A species we believed primitive has defeated us decisively, but more concerning, they defeated us with technology we do not understand. Quantum weapons, space-time manipulation, dimensional shields. They possess knowledge that should take millennia to develop. How is this possible? Demanded Representative Gorath, a bear-like creature from a warrior species. 400 years ago, they could barely leave their planet. Now they surpass us? Ralseth brought up holographic images from the battle, Dominion ships crumpling like paper, platforms firing weapons that cross space instantly, human warships appearing from nowhere. I have studied the recordings extensively. My conclusion is simple. We underestimated them. Badly. They hid, said Counselor Vresh, an insectoid with clicking mandibles. They closed their borders not from fear but to prepare. While we conquered other worlds, they focused everything on defense. 400 years of research, building, and planning, all for one purpose, defeating us. The High Counselor, ancient and hidden behind his mask, finally spoke. His voice was like wind through dead trees. The question now is, what do we do? The humans hold 5,000 of our ships. Over 1 million of our people are prisoners. They have shown they can destroy us if we attack again. We must decide. War or peace? The chamber erupted in arguments. Some called for total war. Assemble 100,000 ships. Attack from every direction. Overwhelm the humans through sheer numbers. Others urged caution. If 10,000 ships failed, why would more succeed? The humans clearly had defenses the Dominion could not break. Ralseth waited for the noise to die down. I propose something the Dominion has never done. We negotiate. We speak with the humans as equals. We learn from them. And most importantly, we stop trying to conquer them. Equals? Gorath roared. We are the Dominion. We have ruled for 12,000 years. We do not negotiate with prey. They are not prey, Ralseth said quietly. That is the lesson we must learn. They never were. Far from the council on the moon base called Galileo, Admiral Hyan prepared to meet the Dominion delegation. The moon base was neutral ground, built specifically for diplomacy. It had been ready for 400 years, waiting for this day. Ambassador Nari walked beside the admiral. She was young for such an important role, only 35, but she had studied alien cultures her entire life. She had prepared for this meeting since childhood. Do you think they will accept our terms? Nari asked. I do not know, Hyun admitted. They are an empire built on conquest. Asking them to stop conquering is asking them to change everything they are. But they must try, because if they attack us again, more of their people will die. And if they refuse, then we stay behind our borders, and they stay behind theirs, forever if necessary. The Dominion delegation arrived in a small diplomatic vessel. It was a sign of respect. Coming in a small ship rather than a battle fleet, Commander Thalen led the group. He had been pardoned for striking Kuvan, who was now in prison awaiting trial. Thalen was now the Dominion's military representative. Behind him came Chief Strategist Ralseth and a dozen other officials. They entered the conference room slowly, looking around with cautious eyes. The room was simple. A round table, chairs, windows showing the lunar surface and Earth beyond. Admiral Hyan stood to greet them. Welcome to Galileo Base, please sit. Thalen sat across from her. His forearms were folded respectfully. His gray skin looked tired. He had not slept well since the battle. He saw every ship that died in his dreams. Admiral Hyan, he began. I speak for the Dominion Council. We come to discuss terms of peace. Peace, Hyun repeated. An interesting word from an empire that has known only war. We have learned a hard lesson, Thalen said quietly. Some prey bites back, Hyun nodded. You were warned twice, you came anyway. Now you know why we closed our borders 400 years ago. Not because we were afraid. Because we saw what your empire does. We saw that you give no choice. Submit or die. So we chose a third option. Hide and prepare. Ambassador Nari placed a document on the table. It was written in both human languages and Dominion script. These are our terms. They are not negotiable. Ralseth picked up the document. His clawed hands carefully turned the pages. His eyes widened as he read. Finally, he looked up in disbelief. You want no territory? No tribute? No submission?
No, Nari said firmly.
We want to be left alone. She pointed to the terms written there. The Sol system remains sovereign and closed. No Dominion ship may approach within 10 light years without explicit permission. The Dominion will immediately cease all wars of conquest. You will free any species that wishes to leave your empire, and most importantly, you will never threaten Earth again. And in return? Thalen asked. In return, we will share defensive technology with species threatened by aggression. Not weapons, but shields and defenses. We will help them protect themselves. In 50 years, if both sides keep the peace, we will consider cultural exchange and trade. But only if you prove you can change. Goreth, who had insisted on joining the delegation, slammed his massive paw on the table. This is insulting. You defeat us once and demand we change our entire civilization? Hyun's eyes were cold. We defeated you completely. We destroyed half your fleet in hours. We did it with defenses alone, without sending our main battle fleet. If we wanted, we could build weapons and bring war to every Dominion world. But we do not want war. We want peace. We want to be left alone. These terms ensure that. And if we refuse, Goreth demanded, then we stay behind our quantum barrier, and you stay behind yours. Your empire will continue as it always has. But you will always know that somewhere in the galaxy, there is a species you cannot conquer, a species that said no and made it stick. How long before others follow our example? The room went silent. That was the real threat, and everyone knew it. The Dominion ruled through fear and strength, but they had shown weakness. If other species learned that the Dominion could be defeated, rebellions would spread like fire. Ralseth understood immediately. You are giving us a choice. Change voluntarily, or watch your empire crumble as species after species refuse to submit. Yes, Jan said. You can evolve into something better. Or you can collapse trying to maintain control through force alone. Either way, Earth will not be conquered. Commander Thalen stood and walked to the window. He looked at Earth, blue and green and beautiful. His people had come to burn that world. Instead, they had been broken against its defenses. I was there at first contact, he said quietly, 400 years ago. I was a junior officer on a scout ship. We found Earth and saw primitives fighting each other with chemical rockets. We called them weak. We called them prey. We were wrong. He turned back to the table. You hid from us and became strong. Strong enough to defeat us, but you chose to save our survivors. You chose to offer peace instead of revenge. That takes a different kind of strength, the kind we forgot we needed. So you will accept our terms? Nari asked. I cannot decide alone, Thalen said. The council must vote. But I will recommend acceptance. I will tell them that the age of conquest must end. Not because we are weak, but because we finally met someone stronger who taught us mercy. Gorath stood angrily. You betray everything we are. No, Thalen said firmly. I save what we can still become. The Dominion ruled through fear for 12,000 years. Perhaps it is time we tried ruling through something else. Respect, cooperation, peace. The meeting ended. The Dominion delegation returned to their ship. In 3 days, the council would vote. Humanity waited. On Platform 7, Captain Minho watched the diplomatic ship depart. Lieutenant Jiwoo stood beside him. Do you think they will accept peace? I hope so, Minho said. But we prepare for war anyway. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That is what kept us alive for 400 years. In Seoul, Admiral Hyon met with Representative Sujin and Defense Minister Taeyang. They reviewed contingency plans. If the Dominion rejected peace, humanity would need to stay hidden forever. The veil would remain up. The borders would stay closed. We did everything right, Sujin said. We won the battle. We offered fair terms. But we cannot force them to change. No, Hyun agreed. Change must come from within. We can only show them the alternative and hope they are wise enough to choose it. 3 days later, the council voted. The chamber was packed with representatives. The debate lasted hours. Finally, the High Counselor called for the decision. Those in favor of accepting Earth's terms? Slowly, hands and claws and tentacles rose. Ralseth voted yes. Thalen voted yes. Even Gorath, grumbling and angry, voted yes. Part 5. Humanity's Terms. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, the formal peace treaty was signed on Galileo Base. Representatives from Earth and the Dominion gathered in the same conference room where Admiral Hyon had presented her terms. But this time the atmosphere was different. Not tense, but cautious. Like two fighters lowering their fists after a long match. Commander Thalen signed first, his forehand steady. Chief Strategist Ralseth signed next. Then Admiral Hyon, her signature firm and clear. Ambassador Nari witnessed and sealed the document with Earth's official mark. The treaty was simple but profound. The Dominion agreed to end all wars of conquest immediately. Any species wishing to leave the Empire could do so freely. No retaliation would be taken against those who chose independence. The Sol system would remain sovereign, its borders closed for at least 50 years. In return, Earth agreed to share defensive technology. Not weapons, but shields and detection systems. Species threatened by aggression could protect themselves without becoming conquerors themselves. It was a careful balance. Peace through strength, but not through intimidation. As the signing ended, something unexpected happened. Thalen stood and walked to Admiral Hyon. The room went quiet. What would he do? What would he say? Thalen looked at the woman who had defeated his fleet. She was small compared to him, barely reaching his chest. But she had done what no one in 12,000 years had done. She had said no to the Dominion and made it stick. Admiral Hyon, Thalen said formally, I request permission to speak from my heart, not as a military officer. Hyon nodded. Granted. Thalen's forearms folded in a gesture of deep respect. Then he did something that shocked every Dominion representative in the room. He lowered himself to one knee, his head bowed. On behalf of those who died in arrogance and those who survived through your mercy, I ask forgiveness. The Dominion has ruled through fear for 12,000 years. We believed strength meant conquest. We believed power meant control. We were wrong. Today you taught us that true strength requires wisdom, true power requires restraint, and true victory requires mercy. One by one, the other Dominion representatives knelt, Ralseth, his old body creaking, Gorath still unhappy but recognizing the moment's importance. Junior officers, diplomats, even the ship crew watching through video feeds, all knelt, not in surrender. In respect, Admiral Hyon felt tears threaten but held them back. She had not fought for this. She had fought to protect her home. But perhaps this moment meant something more. Perhaps it meant the galaxy could change. Rise, she said quietly. "We do not need anyone to kneel. We need everyone to stand as equals. That is the future we offer. That is the peace we want." Thailand stood, his eyes meeting hers. "Then we will try. We will try to be worthy of this chance." The news spread across the galaxy at quantum speed. The Dominion, the unstoppable empire, had been defeated, not destroyed but changed. Wars of conquest ended immediately. Hundreds of worlds that had been preparing for Dominion invasion breathed in relief. But more significantly, species within the Dominion itself began to question. If the mighty Valthar could be defeated, could they not also choose freedom? If Earth could say no and survive, could others do the same? 3 species left the Dominion in the first month. The Council, true to the treaty, let them go. 5 more left in the second month. Some Dominion hardliners demanded military response, but Thalen and Ralseth held firm. The treaty would be honored. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal. The defense platforms remained active, but the full mobilization ended. Factories reduced production. Soldiers returned to their families. The crisis had passed. Captain Minho received a promotion to fleet commander. Platform 7 remained his command, but now he oversaw the entire outer defense grid. It was a huge responsibility, but after the battle, everyone agreed he had earned it. Lieutenant Jiwoo became his executive officer. Ensign Daehyun and Specialist Yuna both received their own commands. The crew that had faced 10,000 ships together now spread across the system, training others, sharing their experience. On a quiet evening, Minho stood in Platform 7's observation deck. Lieutenant Jiwoo found him there, staring at the stars. The veil was back up, the quantum barrier hiding the Sol system from the universe. But now they knew what lay beyond, and the universe knew what lay within. "Do you think peace will last?" Jiwoo asked. Minho considered carefully. "No, not forever. The Dominion is trying to change, but change takes time. Generations, maybe? Some will resist. Some will try to return to the old ways, and there might be others out there. Other empires? Other threats. That's not very hopeful, sir." "Hope is not the same as optimism," Minho said. "I hope for peace, but I prepare for war. That is what kept humanity alive for 400 years. We hoped the Dominion would leave us alone, but we prepared for them to come anyway. And when they came, we were ready." Jiwoo smiled slightly. "So we keep preparing? Always. But now we also teach others. We share our defenses. We give other species the tools to protect themselves. That's the difference between us and the Dominion. They conquered. We protect." In Seoul, Admiral Hyon retired from active service. She was 61 years old and had served for 40 years. She had led humanity through its greatest crisis and secured peace. Now it was time for the next generation to lead. Representative Sujin was elected as the new head of the United Earth Council. Defense Minister Taiyang remained in his position, ensuring continuity. Together, they began the Generation Project, preparing humanity for eventual peaceful emergence from isolation. Not now, not soon, but someday. Hyon spent her retirement teaching at the Defense Academy. Young officers listened to her lectures about the Battle of Seoul, about strategy and tactics, about the difference between victory and wisdom. She told them stories about the choice humanity made 400 years ago, about the courage to hide when hiding was necessary, about the strength to fight when fighting was required, and about mercy. Always about mercy. One day, a young cadet asked her, "Admiral, do you think we did the right thing? Closing the borders? Hiding for 400 years?" Hyon thought about the question seriously. "Yes," she finally said. "We were not ready 400 years ago. If we had fought then, we would have lost. Humanity would have been conquered or destroyed. But we chose survival over pride. We chose preparation over immediate action, and when the test came, we were ready. But we gave them peace," the cadet said. "We could have destroyed them, taken revenge for every species they conquered. And then we would have become them," Hyon said firmly. "An empire built on revenge is just another empire. We did not close our borders to become conquerors. We closed them to survive. And when we won, we chose to be the kind of species we wanted to meet in the universe. Strong but merciful, powerful but restrained." The cadet nodded, understanding. Across the galaxy, the Dominion continued its transformation. It was not easy. 12,000 years of culture did not change overnight. Some species chose independence. Others chose to stay, but as partners rather than subjects. The Empire became something new. A federation, perhaps, or a commonwealth. The name did not matter. What mattered was the change itself. Commander Thalen became Chief of Dominion Military Operations. His first act was to reduce fleet sizes. His second was to establish new protocols. No first strikes. No conquests. Defense only. It was revolutionary. It was terrifying. It was necessary. Chief Strategist Ralseth worked with Earth scientists carefully through intermediaries. Humanity shared defensive technology as promised, but slowly, making sure it would not be weaponized. Trust had to be earned. The Dominion had to prove it could change before receiving more help. 5 years after the treaty, the first cultural exchange occurred. Not in person yet, but through quantum communications. Artists shared works. Musicians exchanged songs. Scientists discussed theories. Small steps toward understanding. 10 years after the treaty, the first Dominion representative visited the Sol system. Not a warrior, not a diplomat. An artist named Silvara, a poet who had written about the battle from the perspective of survivors. She wanted to see Earth, the world that had changed everything. She met Admiral Hyan, now 71 and still teaching. They spoke for hours, about war and peace, about fear and courage, about the choice humanity made and the choice the Dominion was trying to make. "We are learning," Silvara said quietly. "It is hard. Many resist, but we are learning that strength without wisdom is just cruelty, that power without restraint is just tyranny. You taught us that." "No," Hyan said. "You learned it yourselves. We just provided the lesson." 20 years after the treaty, Lieutenant Borum, now Admiral Borum, led the first human delegation outside the Sol system. Not to conquer. Not even to explore. Simply to meet, to talk, to share. The borders remained closed, but communication could flow. 30 years after the treaty, a new threat emerged in a distant sector. A species called the Mordrath, aggressive and expansionist. They attacked a peaceful world. The Dominion prepared to respond, but remembered the treaty. No wars of conquest. Instead, they contacted Earth. "We need your help. Not to conquer. To protect," humanity debated. Finally, they sent defensive platforms operated by human crews. Not to fight aggressive wars, but to protect those who could not protect themselves.